Hello, my name is Daniel. Thank you for being here with me today. If you enjoy real, heartbreaking cheating stories from Reddit, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment to share your thoughts. It really means a lot to me. This is a story that weighed on me the moment I read it, a story of trust that cracked apart in slow, painful fragments. Ethan had been married to his wife Claire, 34, for 6 years. They lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Portland, Oregon, and for a long time, life felt steady, even warm. They had the usual arguments couples do, about money, about who forgot to take out the trash, but they always found their way back to each other. Ethan believed their bond was unshakable. Then, 8 months ago, the ground beneath him shifted. His younger brother, Ryan, 30, moved back to town after more than a decade away. He had left Oregon for Florida when he was just 19, chasing opportunities and sunshine. For years, his visits home were brief, a few days at Christmas, the occasional call on birthdays. Ethan didn't think much about him until Ryan suddenly returned, hollow-eyed and heartbroken, claiming his long-term girlfriend had dumped him for another city and another life. The details were messy and uncertain. Ryan said she had cheated on him with women, something that sounded strange and unlikely. Ethan barely knew her. They'd only met 3 times over the 5 years she and Ryan were together. Twice, she'd come along when Ryan visited for Christmas. The 3rd time was when Ethan and Claire visited Florida during their vacation. She hadn't seemed like someone living a secret double life, but then again, whoever does? When Ethan tried to reach out, he found himself blocked. So he let it go. Ryan moved back in with their parents, Mark, 57, and Linda, 58. At first, things were rocky. Ryan struggled to find work, moping around their childhood home. Ethan, wanting to help, suggested Claire might be able to pull some strings. She was in a senior role at her company, respected and well-connected. She agreed to help, and soon Ryan landed a job in her department, right in his field, the kind of break he desperately needed. For context, Ethan and Ryan were never close. Ryan was the golden child, at least in their father's eyes, and Linda rarely stood up to Mark about it. It wasn't obvious favoritism, just 1,000 small cuts. When they turned 16, both brothers got cars. Ethan's was an 8-year-old Dodge Neon that coughed and wheezed with every start. Ryan's, a shiny 2-year-old Mitsubishi Eclipse that gleamed in the driveway. Their father poured thousands into Ryan's sports teams, covering expensive uniforms, travel, and competitions hours away. Meanwhile, when Ethan asked for $50 to attend a basketball camp at the local college, you'd think he had asked them to build a stadium just for him. The worst memory came when Ethan was 17. He stayed out 15 minutes past curfew with his girlfriend, lost in young love and time. His parents took away his car for an entire month. A year later, Ryan stumbled in 2 hours late, reeking of pot. All he got was a stern talk and a pat on the shoulder. Ethan wasn't exactly devastated when Ryan left for college and chose to stay in Florida. The distance made life easier. But when Ryan moved back, things changed fast. He started spending more time at Ethan's house. At first, it felt like maybe they were building the bond they never had. Ethan even felt hopeful. But then he noticed something else. Ryan and Claire were getting too comfortable. They would talk for hours, laughing about things Ethan didn't understand, sharing inside jokes that shut him out. When Ethan tried to join in, they would dismiss him with, "Oh, just a work thing." When he asked Claire about it, she brushed it off, saying they had a lot in common and were working closely on projects at the office. The first real crack in Ethan's trust came about a month later. He'd come home from work to find Ryan already there often. Claire's schedule was the usual 8 to 4:35, while Ethan worked 10 to 7. More and more, Ryan was at the house in that gap. Whenever Ethan asked why, she would simply say, "We had some work stuff to do." 2 months ago, the smallest detail began to gnaw at Ethan's sanity. Every morning he made the bed a certain way. He always turned the open side of the pillowcase toward the edge of the bed. That day, Ryan had been over again. They'd shared dinner, and Ryan had gone back to his parents' house. Later, as Ethan crawled into bed, he noticed something wrong. Two of the pillows were turned, their open sides facing the center. It was small, so small, but it felt like the first icy crack running through his world. The pillowcases were turned inward. Such a tiny thing, but to Ethan, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He asked Claire softly, almost carefully, if she had been in bed that day. She looked startled, just for a second, before shaking her head. "No? Why?" she asked. He pointed to the pillows. "It's not the same way I made it this morning." She forced a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be mistaken. Nobody's been in the bed." That night, when she was asleep, Ethan scrolled through her phone. He opened her laptop. He found nothing. No messages, no emails, no photos. But then again, why would there be? She and Ryan worked together 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. They had endless time to talk, to plan, to laugh. What would they need to text for? The emptiness of her phone made him feel worse, like he was losing his mind. 2 weeks later, his parents invited them over for dinner. The house felt the same as always, the faint smell of old carpet and lemon cleaner, his mother setting out too many side dishes, his father sitting stiffly at the head of the table. For a while it was fine, until Ethan saw something that burned into his memory. Claire was walking by the kitchen doorway when Ryan reached out and gently grabbed her arm. She turned to him, and he leaned in close enough to whisper something in her ear. Then they touched their foreheads together, just for a second, before Claire stepped back sharply, almost jolting away, and walked on. Ryan looked over at Ethan, smiled, and then went back to whatever he was doing like nothing had happened. Ethan wasn't stupid. This was a mountain of red flags, each one waving in his face, but his heart refused to catch up to what his eyes were seeing. He didn't want to believe it. He had been in love with Claire since he was 23 years old. She wasn't just his wife, she was his best friend, the person he built his life around. So he planned something. A weekend away in Seattle, just the two of them. He told himself they needed time to reconnect, but deep down, he knew he needed answers. It was supposed to be a romantic escape. The first night was beautiful, almost cruelly so. They had drinks, they danced, they made love. Ethan clung to that night like it was proof that she couldn't be betraying him, proof that his fears were foolish. But the next morning shattered all of it. They were almost ready to head out for breakfast when Ethan's voice broke the quiet. "Are you having an affair with Ryan?" Claire froze. Tears welled in her eyes, her voice cracked. "Yes," she whispered. Ethan's chest caved in. "Why?" She cried harder. "I didn't mean for this to happen. We just clicked. Before I knew it, we were kissing, then more." The words sliced through him. He asked the question he dreaded most. "Have you been sleeping with him in our bed while I was at work?" Claire didn't speak. She only turned her head in shame. Ethan walked out. He didn't pack. He didn't take anything but his wallet and keys. He drove home through blurry tears, feeling like a stranger in his own body. Hours later, Claire came back in an Uber. She carried his overnight bag and the rest of his things from the hotel. She stood there, begging to explain, apologizing through sobs, but Ethan couldn't even look at her. Through his silence, she packed a bag of her own and left for a hotel. The next day, Ethan told his parents. They already knew. They said they were sorry that it happened, sorry that it was messy, and then mentioned Ryan had left their house the night before and might not be back for a few days. Ethan knew where Ryan was. 3 months later, the divorce was almost final. Claire rented an apartment, Ryan moved in with her. Contact between Ethan and Claire dwindled to nothing but divorce paperwork. At first, she said he could have the house and the savings. Guilt, probably. A few days later, that changed. Suddenly, she wanted to split the house. Ethan knew that was Ryan's voice in her ear. Thankfully, he had already moved every penny of their savings into a new account. There would be no fight over that. 9 years of Ethan's life, gone. And Claire, he thought bitterly, had no idea what she was signing up for. Ryan was a narcissist who would chew her up and spit her out one day. Ryan wasn't just cruel privately, though. Days after Ethan found out, he tagged him in a Facebook photo, a selfie of Ryan and Claire. She was kissing him on the cheek. The caption, "Feeling loved." Ethan deleted the app. An hour later, Ryan texted, "Sorry, bro. Didn't mean to tag you. No hard feelings. Hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday, too." Ethan blocked him. Everywhere. His parents weren't any better. They pretended to be sympathetic at first, but when Ethan said he was going no contact, his mother's words gutted him. "I'm sorry this happened, but your brother deserves to be happy too. You'll meet someone, and we can put this all behind us." Ethan told her about the Facebook post. She just shrugged. "You shouldn't be on that stuff anyway." His father? Silent. When Ethan finally asked for his opinion, he muttered, "I agree with your mother," and walked out of the room. That was it. Ethan was done. He wasn't just cutting off Ryan and Claire, he was cutting off all of them. Ethan knew there was nothing left to salvage. The house would sell soon, and when it did, he planned to leave Oregon entirely. He wasn't telling anyone where he was going, not his parents, not Ryan, not even a distant cousin who might accidentally let it slip. He was done. Truly, finally done. And in his heart, he wished them all the worst. Years passed. "Hi, everybody," Ethan wrote in an update years later, his words carrying a heaviness that time hadn't fully washed away. "I know it's been 4 years since I last posted, but something happened. A lot has happened." He started with the good. He was engaged now. It had taken therapy, so much therapy, to get him here. When he first moved to Minnesota after selling him a house, he thought he could outrun the pain. He even tried dating right away, went on one first date that ended with him realizing just how broken he still was. The woman wasn't terrible, but the experience made him swear off dating entirely. That's when therapy became his lifeline. A year of peeling back wounds he had buried under anger. A year of unpacking the betrayal of his wife and brother, and the abandonment by his parents who had chosen keeping the peace over protecting their own son. And then, slowly, he started to breathe again. That's when he met Emily, 37, a chef who owned a thriving restaurant with her twin sister Emma. Emily was light where there had been darkness, warmth where there had been cold. Ethan said it almost with a smile, though there was still pain behind it. "Yeah, she has the same first name as my mom. Weird, I know. But Emily is wonderful. She's everything my past wasn't." They were building a life together, and for the first time in so long, Ethan felt hope again. But then came the audacity. Roughly 9 months after Ethan had cut off all contact, an envelope arrived in his mailbox. A wedding invitation. It was for Claire and Ryan. The invitation was printed with their smiling faces hugging in a sunflower field. The sight of it made Ethan's stomach turn. Tucked inside was a letter from his parents. "You need to forgive and put all of this behind us. We know things didn't go the best, but we're a family, and families work through problems. Ryan would like you to be a groomsman, just like he was for you." Ethan could barely process it. a groomsman. For his brother's wedding to his ex-wife. He didn't respond. He didn't even tear the invitation up, just dropped it in a drawer and walked away. The only thing he did was quietly cut off the extended family member who had leaked his address. Time went on. Then came the latest blow. Last week, Claire showed up. Emily and Ethan didn't live together yet, though they were close to making that change. Claire knew how to make an entrance, looking good, too good. She was dressed like someone who wanted to be remembered. Ethan opened the door and stared at her, numb. "What do you want?" Claire's voice cracked. "I just want to talk. I'm so sorry for what I did. Ryan and I are divorcing. I found out he was unfaithful our whole marriage. I don't expect you to take me back, but we should talk, maybe get some closure." Ethan blinked slowly. "No," he said flatly. "I give you no closure. You made your bed. Did you really think Ryan, a man who treats loyalty like a joke, would change for you? You thought putting a ring on his finger would make him faithful? You're even dumber than I thought." Claire's face went pale. "I forgive nothing," Ethan said, his voice sharp now. "I want nothing from you. I don't care. I'm better off now, and that will always be the case. You can go to hell." He shut the door, locked it. His hands were shaking when he called his landlord, a sweet older man who had grown into a sort of surrogate uncle over the past 4 years. He explained who was at his door. Minutes later, the landlord's 2 nieces, who helped maintain the property, arrived. They told Claire she wasn't welcome. If she came back, she'd be reported for trespassing. Ethan thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. These days, Ethan worked a manageable 9-to-5 schedule. He often spent his evenings at Emily's restaurant, sitting quietly in the corner, just happy to be near her while she worked. It had become his safe place. The next night, the door opened, and Claire walked in. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight to his table and sat down. It was a slow Tuesday, the kind where the low hum of conversation filled the space. Emily noticed almost immediately and walked over, her face calm but sharp, eyes darting from Claire to Ethan. "You okay?" Emily asked, standing protectively at his side. Emily recognized Claire immediately from the photos Ethan had shown her long ago. Claire extended a hand, her face arranged in a smile that didn't feel real. Emily just stared at it for a moment before looking at Ethan. "Do you want me to kick her out?" she asked evenly, her hand hovering at her hip like she was ready to take action. "Not yet," Ethan said quietly, his voice low but sharp. "I've got a question or two." Claire's eyes lit up, a flash of hope, like she thought this was the first step toward redemption. It made Ethan sick. He leaned forward and said, "Tell me what happened between you and Ryan." It wasn't for closure. It wasn't for healing. It was pure, cold curiosity. Claire hesitated, then sighed. He was having at least 2 affairs, both with married women. She shrugged like it was nothing. Old habits, I guess. This was 2 years in. It was a really hard time for me. Ethan rolled his eyes. "You are not that dumb. Did you protect yourself, or did he walk off with half your stuff?" Her lips curled into something smug. "I stuck it out almost another year, just long enough to stash savings, sell off a few assets. In the end, he got a fraction of what he would have." "And what happened to him after that?" Ethan asked, his voice hard as stone. Her mouth tightened. "He had to move back in with your parents again." Ethan felt something cold and satisfying settle in his chest. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good, that's what I wanted to hear." He straightened up and said, "You can go now." Emily didn't hesitate. You heard him, out of my restaurant." Claire's face twisted. "But I want—" "No!" Ethan's voice cut through hers. "No forgiveness, no closure. I didn't want you here for anything but that answer. I just wanted to know my loser brother was back under their roof. Now get out." Emily stepped forward, arm raised, finger pointing toward the door. The room shifted. The bartender, 2 servers, and even a man in the corner stopped what they were doing and stared. Claire looked around and saw the disapproval on their faces, the disgust. Her shoulders sagged. She turned and walked out, tail tucked like a dog that had finally realized the fight was over. At the door, Emily added, "And if you ever come back—" Yeah, I know," Claire snapped quietly without turning. "Cops, trespassing, got it." The door shut behind her. Almost instantly, staff and customers came to Ethan's table to check on him. It was kind. It was embarrassing. It was both. Later that night, Emily's parents called. They didn't ask. They demanded he stay with Emily for the next couple of days. "Just to be safe," her mother said firmly. Ethan agreed. And for the first time, he thought, this is what family is supposed to feel like. Claire never came back. Ethan hoped she never would. Years passed again. "I didn't think I'd ever be writing this," Ethan admitted in another update, "but here we are." He was now 41, a father of 2 little girls, 6 and 2. Life had changed. He worked part-time as an office manager for Emily's restaurants and part-time as a stay-at-home dad. Emily's cousin had bought into the business 3 years ago, and with that investment, they opened a second location. It was more work, yes, but it gave everyone some breathing room. It wasn't planned, but Ethan was pretty sure he got Emily pregnant during those days her parents had insisted he stay over after the Claire incident. Now they joked about it often. "They always wanted to be grandparents," Ethan said with a wry smile. "They call it part of their master plan." Life felt lighter, but not everyone stayed away. After their first daughter was born, Ethan eased up a little. He rejoined social media. He still kept most of his family blocked, but he wasn't naive. He knew if they wanted to find him, they would. The first message came from his dad. It was half-hearted, apologetic in tone, but hollow. It ended with a line that made Ethan's blood boil, asking about his granddaughter. He wrote back, cold and final. "You do not have any grandchildren. I am not your son. My children are not your family. If you want grandchildren, tell Ryan to do what he does best." He blocked his father again. His father made new accounts, sent more requests. Ethan deleted them all. Then the messages came faster. Apologies, sob stories, pleas to make amends and let them see the kids. Ethan ignored them. He had no intention of letting them back in. But then came something worse. Ryan himself started reaching out. Ryan's messages started small, a few words at a time, nothing direct, nothing emotional. "I want to talk. It's important. Please." Ethan ignored them for weeks, but they didn't stop. For nearly a month, his phone kept lighting up with messages from the brother who had destroyed his life. Finally, Ethan agreed to a Zoom call. Just him, no kids. The moment the camera flickered on, there they were. Ryan and their parents, faces framed in that cold digital glow. It started immediately. They wanted to see the kids. Ethan didn't waver. "No," he said, "they already have grandparents. Emily's mom, dad, and grandma. That's all they need." Ryan looked rough, thinner, paler. His eyes carried dark shadows. Their parents looked older, worn down, like the weight of time had settled heavy on their shoulders. At first, they spoke like they'd practiced a script. apologies, for everything that happened. Even Ryan chimed in. His voice cracked when he said, "I was wrong to do what I did. I wish I could have my brother back." Ethan almost laughed, but it came out more like a scoff. The idea was absurd. Then his father spoke up, falling back on the same tired lines he'd used for decades about being a family and looking out for each other. When he finished, Ethan stared at them. "That's all you've got?" His voice was flat, sharp. "Because if that's it, I'm done." He moved to end the call. They panicked. "Wait!" they shouted. The mask slipped, and the real reason came out. Ryan was sick. His kidneys were failing. He needed a transplant. Their parents leaned forward, voices shaking now. "We've been trying to reach you because you might be a match," his mother whispered. Ethan felt the anger burn hot in his chest. "So that's why you're here," he said, his voice low, almost trembling. "You want me to save him? First he took my wife, now he needs my body too?" His father snapped, "Stop being like this!" Ethan blinked. His father's voice cracked, and suddenly he was crying, the first time Ethan had seen it since childhood. "I get it. You hate us. But he is going to die if he doesn't get a transplant soon. Is that what you want?" The silence stretched. "You think he wronged you in the worst way," his father pleaded. "But please, just this once, can we set that aside?" Ethan waited. He wanted to hear every word, every ounce of what they'd been holding back. Finally, his mother spoke, quieter, softer. "Look, we're sorry for what happened, but we have big problems. His medical bills, he can't work. Your dad and I are getting older, and we're struggling too. If we don't get help, we could lose the house." She looked at him like a drowning woman. "So you need my kidney," Ethan said, his voice ice. "And my money." "Don't put it like that," she whispered. Ryan finally spoke, desperation cutting through everything. "Please," he said, "just come home. I need my big brother. I don't want to die. Just come and see if you're a match. If you're not, we'll never contact you again." The words hung in the air, heavy and ugly. Ethan didn't answer right away. "I'll think about it," he said at last. "I'll do some research. I'll tell you tomorrow." He ended the call. He sat for a long time before going to find Emily. She listened, she held his hand, and told him she would support him no matter what he chose. Then she asked softly, "Should we all go, as a family?" "No," Ethan said. "I'm not dragging the kids into this. I'm going alone." He told his old family he would get tested in Minnesota. A week later, the results came back. He was a perfect match. The perfect match. He agreed to travel back to Missouri. When he arrived, Ryan was already in the hospital. It was almost convenient. No awkward family dinners, no fake small talk. But his parents still found time to corner him whenever they could, whispering about financial struggles, asking if he'd thought about helping. The doctors explained the situation in detail. Ryan had 6 months left, maybe less. And then the words Ethan already knew were coming. He was the only one who could save him. Ethan stood in that sterile hospital room, the fluorescent light humming faintly overhead. The doctor had just finished explaining that the odds of finding another donor were nearly zero, and that time was running out. Ethan walked to Ryan's bedside. Looking down at the brother who had destroyed his life, he took Ryan's trembling hand, stared into his hollow brown eyes, and said quietly, "Did you hear that? I'm the perfect match. I'm the only one who can save you. and I'm not going to." His voice sharpened. "You are the most vile, narcissistic piece of trash I've ever known. I only came here so you'd know this. The one person who could keep you alive is the one person you wronged the most, and now you're paying for it with your life. You are going to die, and you should make peace with that." Ryan broke. He sobbed. Their parents lunged toward Ethan, but he turned on them, eyes cold. "Don't talk to me. Don't ever ask me for anything again. The only money I'd ever spend on you would be for your funeral, so I could dump your ashes into the filthiest toilet I could find." He walked out, never looked back. Now Ethan is home, his real home, surrounded by his wife, his daughters, and the family he built. And for the first time, he feels whole. Betrayal like Ethan's leaves scars that never fully fade. Many people stay silent in toxic family dynamics or harmful relationships, hoping that time will magically repair what's broken. But time doesn't heal betrayal, boundaries do. When someone shows you they will keep taking from you, your trust, your peace, even your body, you must protect yourself. Walk away, even if it feels impossible. Lean on therapy, friends, and the family you choose. Recognize manipulation before it buries you, and remember this: loving yourself enough to leave can save your life, even when forgiving them never will.